Hello fellow guppy enthusiasts. I hope all is well since the last time you watched one of my videos. I'm coming to you today to talk about a little bit of controversy and some things that came out after some of my recent videos. And I'd like to discuss them a little bit more, clarify some of the meanings, and back up what I have said. Recently I had made a video regarding ways that you could maximize the growth on your fish that are not food related. And in that I talked about one of those items were not keeping too many females in with your males that you're growing out, because of they eat a lot faster than males, so they're out competing them for food, and B, they can release a hormone that will stunt or reduce, I think I said stunt, but I would like to say reduce the size of your males. And I notice it to be, you have more of the hormone issues with hit females than you do virgin. But this is something that I still stand by and definitely takes effect. You look last year in the IFGA alone, in the last IFGA show season, I didn't even show in every show. I think I showed in like 4 shows total. And in each IFGA show, there's 2 best of shows given out for a single, in terms of males. There's also a female best of show, but there's one for delta entries, which is a single male with the delta shape, classifying shape, and then you have a tank entry, which is 2 mass males. So there's only 2 male best of shows per every show. I believe I only showed in 4 of the shows, and on average I only showed 6 or 7 entries per show, and I got 5 best of shows. And one of the big things that you must have in order to really place in best of show, but especially to win it, is you have to have big fish. If you don't have big fish, you're missing too many points to get there. And one of the people that was a big criticism over my suggestion of, in my findings of not keeping a lot of females in your tanks to maximize growth. He never won any best of shows last year in the male category that I remember, but I got 5. And like I said, it comes a lot to down to everything. When you're looking at maximizing size, you got it. There's a lot of things that come into take part in doing that. Now, I'm not saying that you can't keep females in with the males more than the ratio that I talk about in that video. If you haven't watched that video, I recommend go finding it and do so. But I am saying it'll reduce your size, and your size is not going to be quite as big as they could have been if you had done everything or done this step. If you're keeping a lot of females in your males, your size is really going to go down. And this person went around their fish room, and especially one particular fish, and one of his breeders, he went ahead and, oh look, I got big fish. Well, there's different people's opinion on what big is. And for me, big is when you get fish such as this tank, which I'll zoom in a little bit for you to see. When you can get fish that are 1.5 thicknesses of a pencil from the top of their back to their stomach area, and then that thickness carries back in the peduncle area. When you can get that stomach area to get 1.5 thicknesses of peduncle down to that, it's about the most you're ever going to get in terms of maximizing size of the guppies. And I've not seen too many, especially this individual who really had something to say regarding that topic. I've never fish from his room that came out that was that big. And this isn't a matter of my fish is bigger than yours so much of a thing as it is to prove my point, that my point of reducing the amount of females in a tank will help your size, and given the reasons why and why it's valid. And when I think about it now, I'm not the only one who has ever kept a minimum amount of females in with their males. I spent a lot of time being so close. I was so lucky, and I was also a friend, a good friend to Stan Schubel. And going back, after I thought about going back into his fish room, he pretty much did the same thing. A couple of females in his male tanks that he was growing up, and that was it. Stan historically had the biggest fish on the show bench. It was show after show after show. It was us or Stan. We always were right up there in the size level. So you don't necessarily, have to take my word off for. You've had other people that done similar things, and you could take, and anybody here can test this for themselves, which I actually have. But you could take a drop of fish, take the same amount of fish, put them in one tank with only 2 females, and then let's just say you put another tank with equal 50-50 female to male ratio, and raise them up. Treat them the same every other way. Treat them exactly the same, and you will see which ones grow just that much bigger, and it's going to be the ones with less females. Yes, the out-competing a food aspect, you could probably get around that a little bit by overfeeding, but then how much do you feed? It makes it harder to know the proper amount to feed, but you're still going to have that hormonal release that you're dealing with. So I back that up with my awards, what I've said in terms of winning best of shows and having big fish to do that. I back it up by watching Stan Schubel practice the same thing, and I back it up by actually doing more of the scientific study, which I recently did for myself. It was kind of initially a wonder and make fully sure what I thought was true because they grew maybe a third of the size. The ones that had a 50-50 mix grew a third of the size of the ones that only had 2 females in it. So that was my findings and what I did in my water, and that's where I backed that up. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead here. I'm going to touch on a few more topics, but I want to zoom in. We'll get down here. I got to bring you down. I'm going to zoom in so you can actually see, and I can go on through more tanks, but this is an exceptional tank, and I will say that. But you can go ahead and see, and hopefully some of them get up near that pencil, that I'm not kidding. There's multiple fish in here that in their stomach areas, they are the equivalency of a pencil and a half in thickness. Those of you that were born, say, after 1993 may have to look up on the computer what a pencil is. But anyways, yeah, so I'm not joking. If you want to talk about big, this is big. And you got to be doing everything right to get fish this big. There's a lot that goes into it. It's not one example. And the biggest recommendation I also talked about is water changes in that video. Water changes definitely is, and then perhaps more primary even yet. But look at how big this guy is here, and the biggest ones of the tank. And these fish got growing time to do. I don't think their bodies are going to get any bigger, but their caudals are got to come in fully. So that goes to show you on this how big they are. With that said, now I'm going to go ahead and go into my next topic. A little bit of criticism of me walking around and showing you guys the fish with a flashlight, changing to show their color. Some people don't necessarily have to do that. In my room I do. I don't have a tremendous amount of light on the ceiling. I'm going for economical. I don't want to spend a ton on electric. They are LEDs, but because I don't have a lot of light, it limits the amount of light that can get into my tanks. My lights are just in front of my racks. I do have some over when I really want to be able to see well I can put on, but heavy, strong lighting from above on a lot of colors, no matter who you are, whose fish you are, will diminish that color. So, when you can't get a lot of light to the tanks, it's just very helpful for me to get them to show up in the video and show the way they really are with a light. Also, the way I stack my tanks, they're not sticking out above or in front of, say, the tanks above. So, especially in the middle, when you get in these middle row tanks, they're getting blocked, the light from above. It's hard for that light to get over to here. It's totally, you know, it's black. Also, speaking of black, instead of like a light blue background in my tanks, I have black background too. I think it does make their color pop, but it mimics the show bench, where others will go with blue, which lets a little bit more light in. So the only reason why I really walk around with light at times in my videos is to really let you see the colors of these fish. And when you go get them home, under your, you know, your lighting, you may see difference. And if we want to talk about, I talked about different angles of lighting, and somebody goes, oh, they're still green in the lighting above, but they're holding the lighting like this, so it's, you know, not really complete from above. When you're like that, there's still frontal lighting. When I'm talking about above, I'm doing this, and you'll see there's really changes the colors and makes these greens blue, and they're the greenest thing in the world without a light, and even especially with it. Now, I do have a couple of blues in there that I see from the drop, but overall this is a tank of greens. So that is why I go with my light. And also, you know, I'm this year, it's been several years since I've really showed heavy, and I'm hoping to show a little bit more this year. It's really gotten expensive to be sending to shows. It just had another rate hike. The reason why I show, I've won countless awards. I've won more awards than I think anybody other than one individual total, and he really doesn't even show that much. But my award stack is just giant, and I don't really show for the awards. I don't care too much about the plaques or anything. It's a way to validate that my techniques are working and what I'm telling you and my fish. A way to validate how good my fish really are. Doing something 5 years ago, 2-3 years down, that's great. But actively staying at that high level, placing or winning at that high level every year, it says something. So that's why I do it, you know, that's why I'm continuing the show. I like to see, you know, where my fish are stacking up to make sure I am doing the right things, and I typically am. And I'm not just winning in for, you know, it's easy to win a first place in a class. You can have shows where there's very minimum entries or very little experienced breeders and they're showing against you, and you can do great. But when you can turn around and win best of show, and you're beating 60 some odd other male entries of that type that all won their class, which is what you're doing when you win best show. You're the best of all the winners. That says a lot more and is a lot harder to do than just winning a class championship. Nothing wrong against it. I don't want to take anything away from the people that have won class championships, but I'm just saying that there's different levels of doing different things. And the reason why I do shows is just to really make sure that, you know, I'm doing things right, and I feel good to know that, yeah, I still do very well. I go with that route. So I will be showing again this year a little more. I had like a 3 or 4 year stretch where I had very minimum tanks. I went through some major life changes in the last probably more than 4 years. But I'm now settled into a fish room. I don't have as many prime adult fish as I normally would for the start of the show season, but as it goes by, I will. Also, there was some talk, you know, I do got some strains that I do not, or I'm not currently releasing. I just like, it's not, like I said, to win the award, but it's a project, and I like to reap the benefits of my hard work before I give my hard work away. So there's some strains that I keep, like the reds. I've never won that class before. Yellows, I've never won that class before. I just want to win the class before I release. Like, this is one of my best to show. This is the best to show line. This is gonna be the best to show line. These are newer, but these are gonna be the best. So this is the best to show line. And I made these available, and these were available too recently. Actually, some of the siblings of this tank were distributed to customers. So I am definitely serving my customers, and it's not me holding back. Oh, these are the good, or I'm getting rid of fish that I don't win with or won't win. I'm giving all of my